Hello and welcome to City at a Glance. I'm Kelly DiMartino, and joining us today is City Manager Darren Atterbury. Darren, thanks for being here.
Hi, Kelly. Thanks.
So usually on City at a Glance, we talk about some of the pressing issues or hot projects and topics going on in Fort Collins, but today we're going to deviate a little bit and do something kind of fun, which is focus on two of our long-term city employees and city executives who are going to be retiring in March. So I'd like to introduce Diane Jones, who's our Deputy City Manager. Diane, thanks for being here.
Glad to be here.
And Brian Janonis, who is our Utilities Executive Director. Brian, welcome.
Thank you.
So combined, Brian and Diane have 41 years of experience. Brian has been here in the city for 17 years, and Diane has been here for 24. So they have just a wealth of knowledge and experience to share with us. And Darren, I'm going to ask you to just kick us off by, you've worked with both of them for many years, and so I want you to just start by sharing some opening thoughts, and then we're going to hear what they have to say.
You know, let me begin this show by saying how much I appreciate the two of you and the work that you've done for many, many years in this community, and then also just the relationship and the friendship and the growth that you've helped me with. Diane was the deputy city manager when I became the city manager, and she's been a real mentor of mine, and even as a young assistant. and then Brian, I had the privilege of appointing Brian as the executive director of the utilities, and Brian has delivered on everything that we talked about from day one and then some. And so this show is really about I guess just saying thank you to you and letting the community kind of have a peek into a little bit around your careers here. I know, Brian, you've had a lengthy career in Fort Collins, even outside of the utilities position, so hopefully you get a chance to reflect on that. But I'll probably finish with this as well, that this community has been very fortunate to have the two of you serving it in your roles. And Diane, you've been in the role of Deputy City Manager for almost 24 years, and Brian is Executive Director of the Utilities for how many years?
Since 2008.
Okay, and then prior to that in the water utility. And but you just continue to give and give and give, and you've helped us establish this community the way it is now. So I'm going to stop with that, and I hope that you get a chance to reflect on just your experiences. I'd be interested, what brought you here? And then also, what kept you going? And then what sort of hope, aspirations for the community as you're moving into just pure citizens, and then any banana peels that you see as a community that we might need to really begin to figure out. So I'm so thankful for the friendship. For both of you, this isn't a goodbye. This is, we get to enter in a new part of our relationship.
Well, I remember when I came into the community, and I don't know if most people experience this or not, but I can go into a community and just feel what it's like. And I remember the first time coming into Fort Collins, and it felt great. There was a feeling of community. There was a feeling of somehow people, liked their community and liked being here. And I remember coming into the city organization and meeting people for the first time, and people were friendly, they were warm, they were open, they were energetic, and they had this commitment to public service, which seemed to permeate, the whole organization and whomever I met. And so that's what attracted me. People were committed to public service. They wanted to do the best for the community, and they had a good time and had a lot of respect for one another. And so with the community feel, and certainly the presence of people in the organization and what this organization stood for, I thought, this is great. This is where I want to be. This is where I want to contribute.
Well, I go back to the 80s as a consultant here in town. I was traveling quite a bit around the country, around North America, and I had an opportunity to work on a very interesting project for the city of Fort Collins, and that was the Meadow Springs Ranch. and the development of that ranch into a biosolids facility. I was actually involved with it in the original environmental studies before the city purchased it, and got to know the city, the utility. I was very impressed with how progressive the organization was, how the people thought about the future, how concerned they were about the customer, how they could see that this would be a benefit not just for the utility but for the whole community in creating open space and some of the environmental aspects associated with it. So eventually, 17 years ago, I was looking for something different. Travel was getting to me, and came on board with the utilities and worked for Mike Smith, my predecessor.
Did you think you'd be here 17 years later? Did you expect?
I really didn't expect to be here 17 years later. I thought I'd be retiring before now, but it was so enjoyable and so invigorating that I'm glad I stuck it out.
How about you, Diane? Did you think that you'd be here 24 years in Fort Collins?
I didn't know. In my early work life, I worked in educational research and development, and you changed because of contract work about every 2 years. And I remember going to work for a city in Oregon, and I thought, okay, I'll be here for a couple of years, and ended up being there for quite a few years. And so when I came to Fort Collins, I thought, this is a good fit. This is where I want to be. This is where I would like to contribute and help the community and the city evolve. But I guess I never had an idea that it would be 24 years. I don't know. It just, I didn't have that on my radar screen of, okay, here's a period of time and I'm going to be here for X years.
So what were some of the projects or some of the things that stand in your mind? Obviously, you've both had long careers here and enjoyable, it sounds like. So what were some of the things that you're most proud of or that you really, really stand out in your mind over those years?
Well, I would, of course, start with Meadow Springs Ranch and that project, which has just turned into a fantastic asset for the city. It's a multi-purpose project that has the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service Black-footed ferret recovery facility on it. There's a lot of various aspects to that project that make it just more than a utility project. Some of the other projects, one of them that really has me excited right now is the Advanced Meter Fort Collins project that's ongoing and really going to change the way the utility operates, the way we analyze information. The benefit to the customer is having access to your information to make intelligent decisions around energy use and water use. And I think utilities are changing, and that's preparing the utility for the future and what things are going to look like in the future.
I want to elaborate a little bit. A couple things, Brian, that I think about your legacy in the utilities. I think about the utilities of the 21st century. That's something that certainly the council and the community were sort of pushing us and wanting to see the utilities play at a different level, if you will, and begin to affect other parts of the city organization, the community. And I think you've led that with great dignity and with passion. And I think that legacy will continue. And so I just wanted to let you know, I think that is a very, very important thing. The other, the other thing is the focus on the triple bottom line and sustainability. And, you have, I can always count on you for that. The other thing I just want to let you know, and you and I haven't talked a whole lot about this, you've constantly, over the 7 years that you and I have worked together or so, you've constantly shared leadership and development information with me, and you've brought that to the executive team as well. A lot of that began, as I saw it, when you went to the Harvard Kennedy program, the senior executive program. And from that point, I've seen you just take on this how do we learn as leaders together? So just want to let you know, I think all of those will have a lasting impact on this organization, this community, and not to mention you have a style that is just relaxing and it's not intimidating for people. You're just kind of a problem solver, and let's not get caught up in my word, the goo. Let's just try and figure stuff out, and I think that's you've taught me a lot in that area, and I really appreciate that.
Thank you. That's great feedback. Appreciate that.
Oh, I think over the years, and I've been involved in a lot of projects, but I think some that come to mind are budgeting for outcomes. I remember going to a workshop at the Colorado Municipal League, and the budget director and I were there, and came back and had a presentation about this, and came back and talked to Darren. I said, "Oh, this is great. This would open up the transparency. This would provide a lot more ability of people in the organization to know what the genesis of the budget and how it comes about, and opening up to the community." So, and we went through, some review and made the decision and jumped in to do it that first year. It was hard, but it was really good, and I'm proud to be a part of that, because that's been a major change for how we looked at budgeting and how we looked at the financial side of the house. So I'm proud of being a part of that. Front Range Village. I'm proud of working with the staff team and working with the developers to put together. It was a different kind of package, a different kind of approach, and working with the council to bring that about. And so I feel really good about that, and go to coffee almost every Saturday at a little place in the Front Range Village. Another one was the I-25 392 interchange project, and again, feel really good about the team that we put together with Fort Collins and Windsor and the Colorado Department of Transportation. It was truly one of those joint efforts, and without the jointness of that, it would not have happened. And it was also the commitment and the respect among all of those players that when we ran into hard decisions, or these particular issues, we had the commitment to work through that. And even though we came from different perspectives, but we always had that common goal. And so I think that kept us working through that. So I think part of what, as I reflect, that I've had the privilege and the opportunity to work on so many different things. Also the building community choices efforts and building on basics efforts have been part of those, and formulating. But there's been so much versatility to this position and what I've been able to work on, and connect, people together, whether it's inside the organization or outside, connecting, the ideas, and then figuring out together how to implement them. So there's a lot of both versatility in terms of the topics and the types of things, but in terms of the roles, from creating or problem solving and implementing.
Well, I could go on and on about Diane. I want to add a couple of things. I think, first of all, Diane's been a highly productive, successful deputy city manager with 3 different city managers. And she was recruited by Steve Burkett, and he really gets a lot of credit for seeing, just your value and bringing you to this community. And then John Fischbach, and then myself, and I've been in this role for almost 10 years with Diane, and she's had to adapt. I mean, if you know Steve Burkett and you know John Fischbach and you know me, they're very unique individuals and very different types of leaders. And I think you've been highly successful through all different sort of leadership models and personalities. And I admire that about you. There was a colleague of mine when I came from Vancouver, Washington, who knew Diane and said, Karen Haynes, and said, you will never meet a more professional, loyal individual than Diane. And when I first came here 18 years ago, I didn't fully appreciate that, and then quickly really just realized that, and then working with John and then in this role, one of the things that I think is really important for a leader is to have people around you who are going to tell you stuff that you don't want to hear. and but also have an incredible amount of loyalty, and I don't mean blind loyalty, but that are deeply committed to your success and the success of the organization and the elected officials. And I would say I've not met anyone who's done that better than you have in my entire career. Karen Haynes' words to me early on, and I know we talk about those, they were very insightful and they were right on. And I think about budgeting for outcomes. I think about the detail around your work. We all know around the room, Diane is detail oriented. That I can't tell you how many phone calls I've had with Diane at 10 o'clock at night, and it's when we both would do our work, and we're trying to do less of that these days. And I was thinking about last night, I can't call Diane in a month. I can't call you at 10 o'clock at night and say, so.
No, Diane, say no, say no.
But, going through layoffs together and people that you love, those kinds of things, and then just your overall attitude and your professionalism. And I'd say the same thing with Brian too. We have such committed executive leaders in this organization. Kelly's one of them, and I can't say enough about that. And our team that we have is going to be disrupted by you two leaving, and we'll have 2 new people coming in, and we've got to get that right. And it doesn't, I'm excited about the future. And you two are going to leave a huge gap on that team. We've worked together for a long, long time. Diane is the only remaining executive team member from when I became the city manager. We were in this stuff together a long time ago. So,
one thing that I think what's important to kind of think about is that we who work in local government, and I believe that we're stewards. We're here for a period of time, and we are really stewards of the public trust. We're stewards of the work that we deliver. We're stewards to make and hopefully leave the community better and the organization better as a result of having been here and doing the contributions that we can. And so I look at this as that, my stint as a steward has been great. And in terms of I've learned a lot. I think I've contributed. I've worked with wonderful people, and that's one of my criteria, that I get to work with people that I deeply respect, that I think I can learn things from and continue to learn things from, and that and we have similar values and goals. But ultimately, we're stewards. We come and we pass through, and then we leave. And that it's how we leave the place and leave the relationships, and to do those in a way that we're proud of and we feel good about our contribution. That's really important to me.
Yeah, I think that's really well said. So, one of the things in that stewardship role is we always, as city employees, we're always wearing our city hats, right? And soon, so Brian, what's your official date? March 14th, and Diane, March 28th. So very soon, you're both going to get to set aside those city hats a little bit and wear your community hat. You're both local residents here. So I'm curious, as you think about now getting to wear the resident hat and the city hat
We're in
on
trouble.
the side, what are you excited about? What do you think about is important for the city to continue to focus on?
Well, first of all, when I retire, I still want to stay active in the community, and it's a beautiful community. I love it dearly. It's just a different approach. I mean, I'm going to be on that citizen side, on the other side, and a community member rather than somebody in management. I think it's important that we stay focused on the sustainability approach. I mean, a lot of people get nervous about sustainability because they think it's dominated by environmental concerns, but it's very much an economic viability and leaving the place in a better place that you found it, the stewardship part of it. And I think that one of the things we learned through the 21st Century Initiative is that there's a lot more to deal with in terms of assets, the assets of the community. How do we maintain those assets into the future? How do we continue to provide reasonable rates and be respectful of the environment and make sure that we have a sustainable approach to the water supply and also to electric generation and conservation and just that ethic that goes with that, rather than being in that resource development mode that utilities traditionally were in, building new dams, generating more power with new generation stations. We have to look at how we really use those resources wisely and extend them out to be sustainable.
So I always, thought that as a city employee, I had a C on my forehead, and so as a citizen, the C will still be there. And that I think of, I'll be continuing on some boards, and so staying active in the community, and then, finding other ways. But I think that to me, it carries a similar responsibility, whether I'm a city employee or a citizen of the community. There's a certain responsibility and commitment that we all have to, again, continue to make this a wonderful community. You can't just sit back and say, okay, now, somebody else take it over. So I really do believe that continuing responsibility is there. And there are a number of, issues and a number of opportunities to continue to hone and, make this community great for the next 20, 50, 150 years. And sustainability plays a huge role in so many aspects of our community. But there's also of maintaining, I guess, the heart so that people really care, and they finding avenues so people can, continue to play that out, whatever that means to folks, and whatever that might mean to me as a citizen, finding, the niche or niches that I want to continue to provide some contribution. And I think that probably there's still a little bit of the city, trying to figure out how to continue to support the city as an organization, because again, this has been a great home for me, and I don't want that contribution to stop, and it'll take a different facet in some different ways, and trying to figure that out, and what might have meaning, Darren, for you as the CEO, and saying, okay, we could maybe use some help here. So I don't know what that might be, but I still feel very connected. It's not like it's gonna, just sever.
So I have a really quick question, 30 seconds each. What advice do you have for your successors?
Want to go first?
Oh, go ahead.
Okay.
They both want to think.
Yeah.
I would be mindful of the organization that the successor is coming into. The fact that it's an organization that values sustainability in a way that you probably, at least in utilities, do not see in other organizations. I think that's going to be the key thing, is to understand the culture of the city of Fort Collins and how that's different than other utility organizations.
I think for me, it's being keen on the values, integrity, openness, and adaptability. I think that there's so much change, there's so much information, there's so many skills, but I think having the values of the culture of the organization and really behaving in ways that are true to those values is just really key. You can learn the other stuff. It's hard to, you either have those values and in your heart know what they are and behave in those ways.
So we're reaching the end of our program, which I knew would happen too quickly. It's always too fast. I just want to say what I so appreciate about both of you is that you have had this amazing presence as executive leaders, and you're also not afraid to do whatever needs to be done. So I think of you, Diane, if it's a flood and you'll be out grocery shopping at 2 a.m. to make sure that we have food for people who are out doing the work. And Brian, I think about you, it might be the end of a holiday party and you're right there to pitch in and help us clean up. And yet you have this amazing vision of utilities for the 21st century that's really, really fostering both our organization but your entire industry. So I just so appreciate both of you. I'm going to just ask you if you have any closing thoughts as we wrap up, and then we'll let Darren close us out. Brian, I'll start with you.
Well, I'd like to express how, as a consultant, I've worked, throughout North America, and I have to say that the culture in the city of Fort Collins is really the highest level of integrity, the highest level of values, honesty, the most ethical approach to business that I have ever experienced working throughout the country and in other countries too. So I just wanted to say that. I think we're really privileged as citizens to live in a community that really values that. And you don't have to worry about your government.
Great. Well, thank you for all you've done. Diane.
And I would echo that too. And I think that what differentiates Fort Collins is our employees. And I think of, the things that people do sort of apart from their jobs. And from, a police officer helping a bus that came through town with kids on their way to camp and it broke down, and a police officer stops on his day off and spends 3 hours finding a part for the bus. There's so many examples of people going beyond and helping people in the community. And I think that when I mentioned that I'm proud of the projects and things, I think of the opportunities I've had to be out in the field with people, when the streets crews or riding along with the snowplow crews, or being in the parks, and it's the people that are out there that are doing these tremendous jobs and care. They care about what they're doing, but they're doing it because it's for the community. And that just permeates through the entire organization, and it's not just a small group of people over here that have those kinds of values or have that in their heart. And I think that's a real differentiator, and I don't think we'll ever lose that. But that's just been really important.
Thank you. All right, Darren, your turn. 30 seconds about each of them.
Well, you've talked about people, and you guys have both been great role models and leaders for this organization, for your direct employees, and for me. And I really appreciate that. I've become better at my job because of our relationships and your leadership. And so, and this community is better off because I think, whoever said it earlier, that you want to leave it as a better place. You've left it, you're leaving it as a better place. And for me, to recognize the two of you, and you'll have your victory lap over the next couple of weeks, and I hope you really enjoy that. And I hope this community steps up and says thank you to you guys for the legacy that you're leaving. And I'm so glad that you're staying in Fort Collins and you've chosen this as your home. And I had no doubt about that the day I met each of you, or both of you. And then I think, we talk about world class, and you both exemplify that on a daily basis in your jobs. And so I really, we're going to have a lot of time to be able to say thanks and to appreciate and all those things. But this is a golden opportunity to say to you, to our community, how much you are appreciated, both the community, your coworkers, and Kelly and I. We're grateful for the impact that you've had on us. So thanks a lot.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you both. And with that, that concludes this edition of City at a Glance. Thanks for joining us.